Hey there, friend. Have you ever found yourself looking around at a quiet house and thinking, wow, it's just too quiet today? Or maybe you've caught yourself scrolling through old photos, remembering the days when the phone used to ring more often, or when the grandkids would burst through the door with their laughter filling every corner. I get it. Life changes as we get older. The kids move out, friends pass on or move away, and suddenly the days can feel, well, a little lonelier than they used to. But here's the thing. Loneliness isn't just about being alone. It's about feeling disconnected, even when you're surrounded by people. And for those of us over 60, it's something a lot of us face, sometimes quietly, sometimes painfully. The good news? You don't have to accept it as a fact of life. Today, we're going to talk about 4 surprising ways to combat loneliness without even stepping outside your front door. Yep, you heard that right. These ideas aren't just about passing the time. They're about reigniting that spark of connection, joy, and purpose, all from the comfort of home. Now, before we dive in, let me ask you this. When you think about fighting loneliness, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Maybe it's joining a community center, taking up a new hobby, or planning get-togethers. Those are great, of course, but what if you're not up for driving across town, or maybe your energy levels have shifted lately? What if I told you that some of the most powerful tools for connection are already in your hands, or at least in your house? Today's focus isn't about big, drastic changes. It's about small, doable steps that can slowly but surely turn that quiet loneliness into something brighter. We'll start with 2 ideas that might surprise you. How diving back into a forgotten hobby can reconnect you with yourself and others, and why picking up the phone or learning to use Zoom might be easier and more rewarding than you think. Let's jump in. Let me tell you about my neighbor, Edna. She's 72, sharp as a tack, and for years she told me she'd lost her spark after her husband passed. Her days felt empty, she said. One day, I invited her over to help me untangle a mess of yarn I'd gotten into. Long story. And as we sat there laughing about my knots, she mentioned how much she used to love knitting. Turns out, she'd made all her kids' Christmas sweaters back in the 80s, but somewhere along the way she'd stopped. I'll never forget the look on her face a week later when she showed me her first scarf in decades. It's messy, she laughed, but it's mine. That little project did something unexpected. It reminded her of who she was before loneliness took up residence. Pretty soon she started knitting baby booties for the local hospital and even taught a few Zoom classes. Suddenly her days had rhythm again. Stitches, laughter, and the feeling of being needed. Friends, reconnecting with a hobby you loved isn't just about passing time. It's about reclaiming a piece of yourself. Whether it's gardening, painting, baking, or solving crosswords, doing something you once enjoyed sends a quiet message. I matter. And here's the bonus. It can connect you to others, too. Ever thought about turning your hobby into a way to give back? We'll talk more about that in a bit, but stick with me. Now let's tackle something that might feel a little intimidating at first. Technology. I know. Some of you might be thinking, didn't we survive just fine without all these gadgets? And you're not wrong. But hear me out. Technology, when used the right way, can be a lifeline. My friend Marjorie used to joke that her phone was only good for checking the weather. Then her daughter showed her how to join a virtual book club. Now every Thursday she's chatting with folks from 3 states over novels and Zoom calls. It's like having coffee with friends, she says, without spilling it on my sweater. Look, I'm not asking you to become a TikTok star overnight. Start small. Text a grandchild a funny meme. Join a free online class for watercolor painting or chair yoga. Did you know there's a whole world of bird-watching groups on Facebook, or that you can take a virtual tour of museums like the Louvre from your couch? Technology isn't about replacing real connection. It's about bridging the gaps when life feels too far apart. And if you're thinking I'd never figure this out, remember, you don't have to do it alone. Ask a tech-savvy friend, a librarian, or even a grandkid to sit down and walk you through the basics. I'll bet you'll surprise yourself. My 80-year-old uncle started using FaceTime to watch his granddaughter's soccer games live, and now he's the family's official cheerleader. It's those little moments that stitch us back into the fabric of life. So to recap, reconnecting with a lost passion can reignite your sense of purpose, and embracing technology, even in tiny ways, can open doors to new connections. Both of these ideas have one thing in common. They remind us that we're still capable, that we're still growing, learning, and sharing. But wait, there's more. What if I told you that one of the most powerful antidotes to loneliness isn't about receiving connection, but giving it? In the next part of this video, we'll talk about how helping others from home can create a ripple effect of joy that surprises even you. We'll also explore a strategy that involves your five senses, which you've probably never considered. Trust me, it's easier than you think. For now, I want you to take a moment. Is there a hobby you used to love, collecting dust on a shelf? A photo album that makes you smile? A number you've been meaning to call but haven't? Small steps, friends. Loneliness didn't arrive overnight. And it won't leave that way either. But with these tools in your pocket, you're already on your way. Stay with me. We've got 2 more game changers to cover, and I don't want you to miss a thing. All right, friends, let's pick up where we left off. We've already covered 2 powerful tools for fighting loneliness: reigniting old hobbies and embracing technology. Now, let's talk about something that might surprise you: how giving can be one of the most effective ways to feel seen and needed, even when you're staying put at home. You see, loneliness often makes us feel like we're on the sidelines of life. But here's the secret. The moment we shift our focus outward, even just a little, the world starts to feel different. I'll never forget my friend Helen, who turned 75 last year. Then one day she started baking cookies for the delivery drivers who dropped off her groceries. They always looked so tired, she said. I figured they deserved a treat. Now, every Monday morning, she has a fresh batch of oatmeal raisin cookies waiting by the door. She leaves them with a thank you note and a smiley face drawn on the bag. And you know what? Those drivers started writing her back. One even brought her a potted plant for her birthday. It's not much, Helen told me, but it feels like I'm part of something again. That's the thing about giving. It doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't even have to be big. It just has to come from the heart. Let me ask you, have you ever thought about becoming a pen pal? I know, it sounds like something out of a black and white movie, but hear me out. There are organizations all over the world connecting volunteers with people who crave connection. Seniors in nursing homes, kids in hospitals, even soldiers stationed overseas. My cousin Joan started writing to a teenager in a rehab center, and now their letters are the highlight of both their weeks. It's like having a granddaughter I never knew I wanted, she says. Or maybe you could knit a hat for a shelter, sew masks for a local clinic, or write encouraging notes for strangers. I recently heard about a man in his 80s who started painting cheerful rocks and hiding them around his neighborhood. Now families post photos of their kids finding them online, and he gets to see the joy ripple out. Small acts, big impact. And if you're thinking, I don't have anything to offer, let me stop you right there. You do. Your time, your stories, your quiet kindness, they matter more than you know. People are hungry for real human connection, and sometimes the smallest gestures fill the biggest gaps. Now, here's a strategy that might catch you off guard. Using your senses to create connection. Yes, really. Think about it. When was the last time you truly felt something? Not just emotionally, but physically. I'm talking about the smell of fresh bread baking, the sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of a pet curled up beside you. These little sensory moments might seem small, but they're like tiny threads weaving you back into the fabric of life. Let me tell you about my friend George. He's 78, lives alone, and used to say his days all ran together. Then he bought a little tabletop fountain for his living room. It's not much, he said, but the sound of the water, it's like having company. He also started lighting a lavender candle every evening. It smells like Sunday dinners at my grandma's house, he told me. Suddenly, I'm not just sitting in silence. I'm remembering. I'm living again. You don't need fancy gadgets to do this. Light a candle that reminds you of happy times. Put on a playlist of songs from your youth. Go ahead, hum along. Cook a meal that smells like home, even if it's just for one. One of my viewers wrote in saying she started keeping a vase of fresh flowers on her kitchen table. They're cheaper than therapy, she joked, and they make me smile every time I walk by. And if you're lucky enough to have a pet, lean into that bond. Stroke your cat's fur, listen to your dog's happy panting, or just sit quietly together. Animals have a way of anchoring us in the present moment, don't they? Here's another idea. Create a connection corner in your home. Pick a spot where you can surround yourself with things that spark joy. Photos of loved ones, a cozy blanket, a radio tuned to your favorite station, and a window with a view of the outdoors. I've got a friend who set up a little nook by her bay window with a cushioned chair, a bird feeder outside, and a basket of books. I feel like I'm part of the world again, she says. Even if I'm not going anywhere, the world still comes to me. And if you're able, try gardening, even if it's just a few herbs on a windowsill. Watching something grow, feeling the soil in your hands, smelling the basil of a slight conversation with nature. One woman I spoke to started growing sunflowers in pots. They're like little friends, she laughed, and the bees love them too. These ideas aren't just about filling time. They're about filling your heart. When you engage your senses, you're reminding yourself that you're alive, you're present, and you're part of a world that's still beautiful, even if your world has gotten smaller. So to recap, giving back, even in tiny ways, can reignite your sense of purpose. And paying attention to your senses can turn ordinary moments into little pockets of joy. Both of these strategies have one thing in common. They gently pull you out of isolation and back into the rhythm of life. But wait, there's still one more surprise up our sleeve. In the next part of this video, we'll dive into a strategy that involves something you already do every single day: your thoughts. Yep, you read that right. How you talk to yourself can either feed loneliness or starve it. We'll also share a few final tips to help you build a routine that keeps you connected, motivated, and ready to embrace each new day. For now, take a moment to think. Could you send a letter today? Bake a batch of cookies tomorrow? Light a candle tonight just because it makes you smile? Remember, loneliness isn't a reflection of your worth. It's a signal that your heart is asking for something more, and you can give it to yourself, one small step at a time. Stick with me, we're almost there. The best is yet to come. All right, friends, we're on the home stretch now. We've already talked about reigniting old hobbies, reaching out through technology, giving back in small ways, and using your senses to stay grounded. Now let's dive into the final and perhaps most powerful tool in your anti-loneliness toolkit, your mindset. Yes, that's right, the way you talk to yourself matters more than you might think. Loneliness can feel like a heavy fog, creeping in when you least expect it. But what if I told you that how you respond to that fog, what you say to yourself in those quiet moments, can either make it thicker or help it lift? Let me share a story. A few years ago, I met a woman named Ruth at a community center. She was in her early 70s, sharp as a tack, but she'd been struggling with loneliness after her daughter moved overseas. One day she mentioned how she'd started writing affirmations every morning. At first it felt silly, she admitted, but then I realized how often I'd been telling myself things like nobody needs me anymore or I'm just in the way. So I decided to change the script. Now, every morning, Ruth writes down one thing she's grateful for and one thing she's proud of herself for. Some days it's as simple as, I made a beautiful pot of coffee, or I remembered to water my plants. Other days it's, I'm proud I called my neighbor to check on her. Over time, she said those little notes became like a warm hand holding hers through the day. That's the magic of mindset. It's not about pretending everything's perfect. It's about gently nudging your thoughts toward what's still good, still meaningful, even on the hardest days. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. How can scribbling a few words really make a difference? But here's the science behind it. When we focus on positive, empowering thoughts, even small ones, our brains start to rewire themselves. It's like creating new pathways in your mind, little trails that lead you away from loneliness and toward hope. And you don't have to start big. Try this. Every morning say one kind thing to yourself. It could be, I'm doing the best I can, or today I'll find joy in something small. Or if you're feeling stuck, this moment will pass. These aren't just words, they're tiny acts of self-compassion that remind you, I matter. Another trick. Keep a gratitude list. It doesn't have to be long. Just 3 things you're grateful for each day. Maybe it's the taste of your morning coffee, the sound of birds outside your window, or the way your cat curls up on your lap. Over time, these little moments stack up. They become proof that life is still happening and that you're part of it. And here's one more idea to wrap this up. Build a connection routine. Think of it like a daily rhythm that gently pulls you out of isolation and into the world around you. Maybe it's a morning walk around your garden, a midday phone call with a friend, or an evening cup of tea while listening to your favorite music. The key is to make it yours, something that feels doable, even on days when your energy is low. Let me tell you about my Uncle Frank. He's 81, and for years he'd wake up feeling like the day was just something to get through. Then he started a simple routine. Every morning he waters his plants, feeds his cat, and writes a short note to himself. It's like checking in with my own heart, he says. In the afternoon he calls a buddy from his old bowling league. And every Friday night he watches a classic movie with his granddaughter over Zoom. It's not much, he laughs, but it's enough to keep me from feeling like a ghost in my own life. That's what a routine does. It gives you structure, yes, but more importantly, it gives you anchors. Little things that tether you to joy, to connection, to the simple fact that you're here, and that's enough. So let's take a moment to recap what we've covered. First, we talked about how reigniting a forgotten hobby can reconnect you with yourself and others. Then we explored how even small steps with technology can open doors to new friendships. We discussed how giving back, whether through letters, baked goods, or a kind note, can reignite your sense of purpose. We touched on how engaging your senses can turn ordinary moments into little pockets of joy. And finally, we looked at how shifting your mindset and building a daily routine can gently pull you out of loneliness and back into the rhythm of life. These strategies aren't about fixing everything overnight. They're about stacking small, doable steps until you start to feel like yourself again. And here's the best part. You don't have to do them all at once. Pick one, try it for a week. See how it feels. Then maybe add another. Progress, not perfection, is what counts here. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Loneliness is a universal experience. It doesn't mean you've failed or that you're broken. It just means you're human. And the beautiful thing about being human is that we're wired for connection, even when it feels out of reach. So I'd love to hear from you. In the comments below, tell me, what's one small step you'll take this week to combat loneliness? Maybe you'll plant a seed, send a letter, or try a Zoom class. Whatever it is, share it with us. You never know who you might inspire. And if this video resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. More videos like this are on the way, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Remember, friends, you are seen, you are needed, and you are never too old to find new ways to connect, grow, and thrive. Here's to living your best life at any age.